Now, throughout history, there have been a countless number of warriors that have fought in battle, and quite a few have made a name for themselves. But there is a very special handful of warriors that names will go down as the bravest warriors of all time. And one of these select few warriors are none other than King Leonidas and his 300 warriors of Sparta. I think every man on earth admires the sheer strength and bravery of the 300 Spartans, and their legend is something that will never be forgotten. 300 men fighting off thousands of soldiers, enduring countless grueling waves of battle and dying a true soldier's death with the highest level of integrity and honour. Now, it's very rare that you and I would be put into a situation similar to the Spartans, but in life in general, we are constantly facing battles every single day. And what we're going to be learning is what made the Spartans so tough, and how was it that they were able to summon the strength to endure endless battles. How can we install the mindset of a true Spartan warrior? And how can we implement the same level of mental toughness as of King Leonidas? Now, in case you're new here, this is an entrepreneurship channel. The things that we cover are in relevance to how us entrepreneurs can use certain character traits to implement into our lives, our businesses, and in ourselves. And in order to break down these character traits, I'll be using Robert Greene's works as reference of power, war, and mastery. So how do we think like a true Spartan? How was King Leonidas able to lead 300 brave men to their inevitable death? And how can we operate like a true Spartan warrior in our lives and in our businesses? And how we do this is by utilizing the fourth strategy of war, by creating a sense of urgency and desperation, the Deathground strategy. You are your own worst enemy. You waste precious time dreaming of the future instead of engaging in the present. So since nothing seems urgent to you, you are only half involved in what you do. The only way to change is through action and outside pressure. Put yourself in situations where you have too much at stake to waste any time or resources. If you cannot afford to lose, you won't lose. Cut your ties to the past and enter unknown territory, where you must depend on your wits and energy to see you through. Place yourself on death ground, where your back is against the wall and you have to fight like hell to get out alive. And this was the strategy and the mindset that King Leonidas and all Spartan warriors adopted. And this is where that insane Spartan toughness derives from. Now, in order to understand this and to implement it into our lives, we need to step back and take a look at the Spartan way of life. Sparta, in essence, was a state governed by military. And ever since birth, Spartan children were put through a rigorous, brutal, and even torturous level of training in order to transform them into the elite soldier that the state would be proud of. And the whole concept of the training was to throw the children straight into the deep end and put them into Deathground scenarios. Scenarios such as forcing them to sleep outside, depriving them of all clothing, and keeping them under constant pressure by having them stare death constantly into the eye in order to build that mental toughness. This feeling of having no escape and no mercy upon them gave the children the opportunity to develop the sense of being on death ground. It was either survive or die. This sense of urgency multiplied their strengths and gave them momentum to push on as hard as they can. And the Spartans weren't exactly afraid to let children die in training, as in their eyes, if the child couldn't survive training, then they wouldn't be of any value on the battlefield. This sense of urgency was developed from young in Spartan warriors, which derived from the powerful connection that they had with the present. The training made it clear that no one was coming to rescue them. So instead of dreaming of rescue or hoping for a better future, they had to face the issue at hand. By putting the children in desperate situations with their backs against the wall and putting them on death ground, it would make them fight with the utmost intensity and develop their mental toughness. And if they failed, then the only thing that would be waiting for them would be certain death. by exposing them to these desperate situations and being thrown into situations where the presence of death seemed inevitable is what allowed Spartan warriors to dig deep inside themselves and realize their true capability. This concept of having no other option but to just survive or die really brings out the true warrior spirit. And this is what we can take away from the Spartans and implement into our lives. By putting ourselves into situations which require us to stand on death ground, it will allow us to dig deep and realize our true capability. The philosophical belief and law of Sparta was that it was the highest dishonor and the ultimate disgrace to surrender. It was more honorable to die fighting than to survive by surrendering. And this way of life and this way of thinking catapulted the reputation of Sparta to be one of the most feared warriors of all time. This mental death ground strategy was how they approached every single battle. And King Leonidas and the 300 Spartans also utilized this death ground strategy at the Battle of Thermopylae. This strategy is what mainly allowed King Leonidas and the 300 Spartans to endure such intense battle. The Spartans typically fought as a large heavy infantry unit, and their usual battle formation was known as the flanks. Each soldier was equipped with a long spear and a long shield and ensured a tight formation. And due to the tight formation and heavy shields, this formation provided heavy shielding from weapons and attacks such as arrows and stones, and was one of the best defense strategies from a frontal attack. As the enemy would charge against them, the formation would act as a solid impenetrable wall, allowing the Spartans to hold their ground and to use their spears and shields to push back the enemy. However, due to the tight formation, if just even one soldier's discipline failed for even just a second, this risked allowing an opening for the enemy, which then can lead to the entire formation shattering, leaving soldiers vulnerable and exposed. So it was imperative that each soldier held their position firmly. And this in essence was the whole point of Spartan training. The flanks must never break, and it rarely ever did. And you can take a guess as to why this formation was so effective. Yep, once again, the soldiers were placed on death ground. If the flanks broke, then this could potentially lead to the whole army being wiped out. Spartans had trained their minds from young to understand that death meant honor and retreat meant disgrace. It was as if there was a mountain behind them cutting them off from home. And this determination and sheer will to either survive or die is what allowed them to endure countless waves of battle, and was why they were able to hold ground against such a massive army. And this is exactly what us entrepreneurs can take away from the Spartans. You may be thinking that you only have to be in a physical war to be on death ground, or literally be in a fight or flight physical situation. But in modern day reality, we face situations and pressures like an imminent Persian onslaught every single day. It may seem that on a day-to-day basis we feel lost in our actions and we don't really have any motivation to do anything. But as soon as we expose ourselves to a bit of pressure, this snaps us out of this rut and drives us to act. This psychological phenomenon is not only accustomed to the battlefield, but it also extends to the corporate world and to any situation where you feel enclosed and without options. There is this real pressure on your back and you cannot retreat. Time is running out, and failure, a form of psychological death, is staring at you in the face. You must act or suffer the consequences. This principle was installed into Spartan warriors from young, and this is exactly what King Leonidas did with his troops when we look at the Battle of Thermopylae. After enduring days of battle and still standing strong, King Xerxes knew that the cost to break through the Greeks to his own army would be catastrophic. It was only until the Spartans were betrayed that eventually the Persians managed to surround the Greeks, to which even then King Leonidas ordered the retreat of the Greek army to where only him, his Spartans and a small number of other Greek warriors were ordered to stay and defend against the inevitable Persian onslaught. It was said at this point the Spartans fought to their last breath, protecting Leonidas' dead body until every man met their demise. And if it wasn't for this sacrifice that the Spartans and the other Greeks made, the retreat of the whole army wouldn't have been possible, which ultimately allowed Athens to be evacuated, which then led to a chain of events that ultimately allowed the whole of Greece to drive the Persians back to their land. And this is how to think like King Leonidas and a true Spartan warrior. If our situation as human beings is easy and relaxed, we easily become bored and tired due to no external challenge or pressure. But when we all of a sudden place ourselves into a high stakes situation, a psychological death ground, the whole dynamic changes. Your body responds to this danger with a surge of energy. Your mind all of a sudden focuses. Urgency is forced upon you and you are compelled to waste no time. So whenever you feel like you're in a bit of a rut in life, use this strategy of putting yourself on death ground to shock yourself and give yourself a wake-up call. An example of how I did this was back when I was 18. I was currently a mechanical engineering student at university, but I wasn't enjoying it whatsoever, and I felt as my life wasn't on the correct path. So I made the decision to drop out and pursue entrepreneurship full time. And even though, granted, I had no proper plan at all, I felt something for the first time in years, this fuel of adrenaline and fire inside me. I had very little savings and I wasn't exactly sure of what I was going to do, but this literally was the perfect time to utilize the death ground strategy. With my back against the wall, I had no option but to fight and survive and ensure that entrepreneurship works. This drive and pressure of having to succeed is what kept me awake for endless hours at night for nearly 2 whole years working on my business. And now I feel like I never would have worked as hard as I did if I didn't place myself in that high stakes situation of having very little savings, no plan whatsoever, and my back against the wall. Asking my parents for money wasn't an option, getting a job wasn't an option, so I had to make sure my entrepreneurship journey worked, or it was literally financial ruin, which you could say is a form of psychological death. Exactly like the Spartans and King Leonidas, I cut off all forms of escape and all other options. And I left myself with only just one option. I have to make this thing work. And that's what I want to leave you with today. When it comes to entrepreneurship, it's very easy to get unmotivated and tired at times, as typically you are your own boss, which even though is great as you have a lot more control of your life, it also means that no one is going to tell you to go to work either. So whenever you feel like your life is stagnant and you feel like you've lost a bit of your drive, shake yourself up by putting yourself on death ground. You do this by cutting off any safety nets, any type of option of rescue, by ensuring the only thing that you can do is succeed. Because if you don't, then your life will literally be in ruins. You can do this by staking everything on one idea, acting before you're ready, entering new waters that you've never done before, and keeping yourself restless and unsatisfied. Now, of course, when I look back at what I did, I probably would have been better to create a bit more of a plan first, then drop out of university. But in reality, I just made the decision without any plan and dropped out, which is a form of acting before I was ready. And again, because I ensured I had no other option but to succeed, this is what brought out my true warrior spirit. And this is exactly what you can do by putting yourself on a psychological death ground. And that's how to think like King Leonidas. And that's how to think like a true Spartan warrior. So if you like these type of character breakdowns, make sure you smash that like button and let me know in the comments who you want to see next. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel, and to all our loyal subscribers, we are glad you are here. We do some of the best character breakdowns on the whole of YouTube, and we aim to do at least one high quality animated video per week. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.